please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Yesterday we spoke about Keffals and Tipster because damage control after the Muta video dropped. There is still some blowback for Muta, but it is minor, negligible really, but typical of the internet space to find ways to try and go in on him by going after his partner, for example. A bit cowardly, I will admit. I had said in yesterday's video that I was going to go through the AtaraxiA Twitter thread, which is actually on a thread reader app thingy, which makes it a lot easier for us to go through. So that is what we're going to look at today. The post begins. Below I will prove Keffals misled donors and spent $100,000 dishonestly. Her legal case with Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario is dead, and Keffals has been lying about its status to avoid questions relating to the money. Included is an image showing that if Keffals had ever been cancelled, it would be because of the GoFundMe. This is something I showed yesterday. I've been investigating Keffals' GoFundMe for a long time, and now that a few pieces of evidence are public knowledge, I can share what I found. TLDR, the above screenshot is real, and the legal case the GoFundMe was supposed to go towards likely isn't happening. My friend Cog on his YouTube channel Cog's World had gone through this and made it quite clear as a point that if you've gone to the lengths that Keffals went to raise the money raised, to then blow it on moving, to blow it on equipment for live streaming, not to spend it on what it was intended for, you are committing a form of fraud. I've done GoFundMes in the past, and whenever I have done that and there's money left over, I post on the GoFundMe to ask what people think I should do with the money, and it invariably ends with me donating it to an animal charity because a lot of my GoFundMes, most of if not all bar one, have been to raise money for vet bills. Firstly, what exactly did she say she would spend the GoFundMe on? According to the GoFundMe description, $20,000 for recouping losses, moving to a safe location, the remaining $80K for a legal fund. It's important to take this at face value since it's what she's saying directly to people donating. Included two images, one being the legal fund description: if the goal is met, I will raise enough to recoup my losses and move immediately to a safe location. The only reason this happened was because she decided to go to war with kiwi farms. Don't go to war with kiwi farms. You may have, and she did briefly, manage to get them removed. Briefly. But you weaponized the internet, and there was always going to be with such a purchase a receipt. The receipt came in the form of something I of course do not support. But then Keffals did not help herself when she went to Ireland wearing a real life streamer camera thingy doodah. It took people 5 minutes to work out where she was staying from a door handle picture. And that's not a joke, it took the online community 5 minutes. Although Ireland isn't that big, it's not surprising they were able to whittle it down. In the second image, update. The original moving goal was met, but the hotel I was staying at while looking for a new place to live was doxed. I am now in hiding. I am keeping the GoFundMe up, but all donations are going directly to my legal fund, which I'll use to seek justice. Fun fact, the entire premise of this GoFundMe was fraudulent. It was done to escape somebody, but under the guise of, I'm a victim. If you'd led with honesty in the first place, people would have supported you, but you weren't interested in being honest. On Twitter, Keffals has been less clear about how money was allocated, but here is one figure I want to call attention to. This shortly after the GoFundMe launch, and she gives a lower estimate of $60,000 for a trial that is most of the GoFundMe is going towards legal fees. Included a tweet: a 3-day civil trial in Canada is $60,000. The vast majority I raised is going to pay lawyers, and the rest is to move and pay me and my staff, because I can't work until I'm safe. Making a trauma victim explain this a week after it happened is effed up. The second image: woke up and I'm seeing tender queers mad at me for saying mean words at people, mocking me for raising money for legal fees, and to move after I could have that word because I got doxed and fascists weaponized the police to attempt that word me. I was the victim of a hate crime, grow up. Then the tweet, which we already went through. The follow-up tweet: in order to ask for help, I had to go public and confirm my home address to the people who want me unalive. The crowd that thinks me quote tweeting them is violence but laughs at me for facing actual police violence is not getting any sympathy. I do not care how my fans treat them. The problems Keffals has with all of this already, we all now know it's a lie, one massive falsehood. But additionally, you may not care how your audience treat those that are against you, right? However, you are still forgetting the nature of the internet when one makes a purchase. She also reiterates that the non-legal portion of the fund is going towards moving and recouping her losses, but in my investigations I found that she had no concrete losses to recoup. Keffals was swatted on August the 5th. She later said that all her devices were returned 3 days later. This was confirmed on an episode of H3 clip now.
I eventually got my stuff back in like 3 days and got an apology from the chief of police.
That's nice.
So, yeah, that was really nice. Not nice how they responded to the situation, but I'll take it.
Continuing, this is corroborated by a property bag shown in a CBC story about Keffals swatting, the label of which clearly shows that Keffals' desktop tower was returned to her on August the 8th, which was before Keffals launched her GoFundMe on August the 9th. As you scroll down, you have the property bag. The property bag image quite clearly shows you everything returned on the appropriate dates. Additionally, a former editor of Keffals shared with me a copy of Keffals' finances from May 2022 to July 2023. In it, we can clearly see that in August 2022, Keffals earned $13,000, which is actually higher than the surrounding months. Image included does in fact show that. In fact, she did pretty well for herself. To reiterate, Keffals did not have any losses to recuperate. She wouldn't see a decline in revenue until the 3rd, which is March 2023, after she went to rehab. Keffals also very likely didn't use the 20k to relocate to Ireland and instead paid at least a significant portion of it out of pocket. By 2022, by the 9th of April, Keffals was established enough in Ireland for publications to write about. The next day, she would have an infamous conversation with Winter, where when asked if she had used GoFundMe funds for a PI, strongly implied she hadn't spent any of it yet. Underneath this is an archive link and an image. We'll do the image first. Keffals. Winter, I don't know how much money you think I make, but I was going to make 6 figures this year before the GoFundMe happened. This, by the way, is confirmed up here in the financial part. Yes, she was doing exceedingly well. Winter, that wasn't the question. Quit flexing on minorities. Whitey. Going to the bottom though, because that's the part that matters. Did you pay for the PI out of the GoFundMe money? No. The archive link is from the Sunday Times. The only interesting thing about this is the image of Keffals holding a PS2, a piece of verifiable human history that must be preserved at all costs. I have one that functions. It is quite useful. The article, as we now know, is built on a lie. It is built on a lie because it's all framed around the argument that Keffals was hounded by the internet, the horrid internet people like Josh and apparently Ethan, Gunt, Ralph. That's not entirely true though, is it? We now know this was done as an entire facade to escape somebody. Continuing with the Twitter thread. In this exchange, you can also see how she could afford this. She was on track to make 6 figures in 2022. This also adds context that up to this point she never mentioned she's rich, or at least was at the time. This adds gravity to the situation given that trans people are forced to beg for scraps online. So an already wealthy woman using a GoFundMe for an important cause, instead using it to double her income, isn't just evil, it's an insult to every trans person struggling to survive. Just before I get away from myself, here's the link to the original exchange with Winter, which shows that it occurred on September 5th. I hate the Twitter character count. Included is an Odyssey link. We're not going to go to that though because that will take a while to go through. Anyways, while it seems that Keffals didn't need the GoFundMe to get to Ireland, she wouldn't settle down until October. This brings us to the screenshot taken by a former editor for Keffals on the 30th of November 2022, where Keffals says all of the GoFundMe money had either been spent or earmarked. Included is an image that does in fact confirm this. Arif, Ellen's right, but I definitely understand that feeling whenever I've had a windfall that I wasn't originally planning on having. I still felt bad when it was depleted. And then you get to the part of getting cancelled that we discussed yesterday. Keffals in just 4 months, potentially 2, if it really hadn't been touched by September, blew through $100,000. On travelling, not moving, furniture, friends, new stream gear that she did not need since she got her devices back after 3 days, and clothes. The rest was for a year of rent and therapy, neither of which was outlined by the GoFundMe. I can even tell you how much she spent on rent. She would later tweet on her private that her rent during this time was $2,400 a month, which is $28.8k she had allocated. Archive link confirming it. Image is basically that. I love living in Ireland, can barely understand what people are saying, but it's so pretty and my rent has gone from $2,400 to $400, so I am building some savings. I am saving up to buy a house, which is not a sentence I ever previously stated because that was not possible. And for clarity, yes, she says her rent in Ireland is $400, but she would not move to Ireland until June 2023 when her visa was approved. Before then, she was living in Canada, which is when she allocated a year of rent at $2,400 a month. Got it? Got it. Confirming that with a tweet from Keffals on the 2nd of June 2023. My visa just got approved, I'm moving to Ireland this month. Remember when she said and reiterated that most of the GoFundMe would go towards a legal case, that a civil case, which still has not happened, would cost a minimum of $60,000 for 3 days. And yet by the end of 2022, the money she said was for the legal fund was gone. This means that none of the $100,000 went to any of what she said it did. Which brings us to my second point. Her legal case with the HRTO that isn't going anywhere. Buckle up, fuckers, because we're only halfway done. As I followed the progression of Keffals' legal case, her public and private plans constantly shifted and often did not align. As a result, nailing down a robust timeline of what she was saying publicly and privately regarding her legal case proved convoluted and unhelpful. So I'll give her the benefit of doubt and assume her most recent plans, a complaint filed with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario on the 10th of April 2023, are consistent with her initial GoFundMe for a legal case. Remember that date because it's important. Included underneath, I'm taking legal action from the Keffals channel, a video that is still available on her channel. It is 17 minutes 50 seconds long. Image of importance actually does show the date around the 16-minute mark from the Keffals video. And of course, I can here skip ahead to that part and play it for you now.
And in order that London Police Services distribute a copy of the decision of the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario in this application to all management, employees, stakeholders, and community members, and publish a copy of the decision of the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario in this application in a conspicuous location on the home webpage of the respondents.
Cringe. So, continuing. Her video wasn't uploaded till May, but various press outlets announced it around April 21st using a press kit Keffals put together, almost all of them including a clause like this saying there was no information as to when the claim would be heard. Underneath, lfpress.com confirming this, no information is available concerning when the claim will be heard. A London spokesperson declined to comment on the complaint. Ongoing cases generally aren't covered like this, and we also know that a lot of what Keffals had said had happened when the police turned up at her home was nonsense. She lied. We covered this in an exhibition of stupid people, in fact. Thankfully, the process of filing a claim is publicly available. Once the HRTO receives an application, the applicant receives a letter either informing them the app needs work, or it's good and has been sent to the other party. After some back and forth, the parties convene before the HRTO to mediate and try to reach a settlement. Failure to do that will then lead to a hearing. You might think this process has an open-ended time frame, so it'd be expected we haven't heard anything, but that's wrong. Included is an image explaining the process of mediation. Quite comprehensive, to be honest. Unfortunately for Keffals, the HRTO sets a deadline of 1 year after the initial filing for a hearing should one occur. The application was filed on the 10th of April 2023. The deadline for a hearing was a month ago. There has been no evidence of a hearing. Statute of limitations appears to be in effect here, folks. We haven't heard anything about mediation, we haven't gotten confirmation her application was accepted, we haven't even heard about the letter she was supposed to receive right away, and all of these things are long past due. I will now catalogue everything we have heard. The next we would hear about the HRTO case was in October 2023, when the London police concluded an investigation into the SA allegations Keffals made in her application, and notably the London police were made aware of the allegation through the media, not the HRTO. The media in question would be the image down below. London police learned from a media report on April 23rd and notified Ontario's police watchdog, the Special Investigations Unit SIU, according to the report duty chief Paul Bastien, will present Thursday. The investigation itself is irrelevant. Personally, I'm always skeptical of internal police investigations. What's relevant is when reporting on the investigation's end, the London Free Press reached out to Keffals' lawyer for comment and got this. We are unable to comment other than to say we will continue to be seeking justice before the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal. For someone that's milked the attention as much as they have, this one confuses me, especially for someone like Keffals that needs the attention. When given a perfect opportunity to update the public on the proceedings of the case, her lawyer gave us no indication the case had progressed at all, not even so much as a confirmation that the application was accepted despite the fact it definitely should have been by now. The next time she talked about it, would be on the 5th of February 2024 when she said this. While this may seem like the case has progressed, take note of 2 things. She claims the process could take a minimum of 2 years. We know that's not true. 2, she's being vague. The tweet in question was a retweet of Willie Mack, who said, "How's the lawsuit going? Any updates? Papers have been processed and we are awaiting dates to appear in the tribunal. I'm told this could take a minimum of 2 years at best and 6 at worst, depending on if this gets escalated to a higher judicial body." What I'm hearing here is absolute horsepuck, nonsense, trash. She hasn't even said the HRTO accepted her application. For example, merely that the papers have been processed. Even more suspiciously, she deleted this tweet within 7 minutes of posting it. Please excuse my chicken scratch math with screenshots to prove this, because proving it wasn't that difficult. Yes, as you see from this image underneath the Willie Mack query, you have proof of that. This is embarrassing, very embarrassing. My best guess, someone told her it was a bad idea to publicly lie about this. Which brings us to the 3rd time she talked about it. Oh wait, that's the last she ever said of it. Remember the deadline for a hearing was a month ago. Also remember, by now she has already long since spent the money allocated for a legal case, and her financials and frequent absences from streaming since going to rehab make it extremely unlikely she could afford to pay a case out of pocket. Altogether, the evidence strongly indicates that her case with the HRTO died a long time ago, and she has continued stringing everyone along, probably in hopes of staving off getting cancelled, as she was clearly aware she was at risk of. This is unacceptable. To reiterate, Keffals lied about spending $20,000 on moving and recouping costs. Keffals lied about putting the remaining $80,000 into a legal fund. Keffals is lying about the status of the case this very day to keep people from asking questions about what she did with the money. So what can we do? Since Keffals is clearly uninterested in transparency, we must take action for ourselves, including the GoFundMe and indicating people should in fact report for fraud. Next, if you unfortunately are one of the people defrauded by Keffals, you should submit a donor claim here. To conclude, I would like to address Keffals herself. Clara, people trusted you. For years you said you were fighting for young trans people for the freedom of your people, and all of it while you were lying to their faces for money that benefited only you. Do the right thing. There are others tagged at the bottom here, but I think they are tagged at the bottom because they are needed to be included in conversation. As far as I'm concerned, and I said this yesterday, Keffals committed fraud. Simple as that. It was fraud. Keffals has still got some supporters, but the support is dwindling. People are starting to realize you built this all on a lie to get away from an ex. You claim ABUSEDU. As far as I'm concerned, there is no valid excuse for lying to the degree of $100,000. If you genuinely needed to escape somebody that was trying to harm you, you could have asked for help, and people would have helped you for that. But you didn't. You had to turn this into a one-dimensional play in a three-dimensional horse race. You've embarrassed yourself, and all those that support you, you should all be ashamed of yourself.